All right, sorry kids, but Brother Johnny's not here, so you got to suffer through this. But I think it's going to, if it's consolation, I think it's going to be short. So we'll be good. All right, open up to Matthew chapter 9, verse 15. Tonight's going to be just super, super practical. But we're just going to look at one verse, Matthew 9:15, as a reminder, if I get there. Matthew 9, verse 15. All right. Are you there? 2 people are there. All right. Good. I mean, there's only like 10 here, so that's fine. All right. Matthew 9:15. And Jesus said unto them, can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? Talking about why his disciples don't fast. But the days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then shall they fast. And then shall they fast. There is a time for fasting. Well, we'll go ahead and pray, and then we will begin. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you for just a time of in prayer with my brothers and sisters here at the church, and I'm thankful for that, and congregational praying. But Lord, I'm also thankful for your word and the opportunity to look into it, to grow. Especially, it seems as you've laid different series on my heart, we get the opportunity to practice it, and as it's been with fasting. Lord, I just pray that you would help us now as we look at the just practical logistics of fasting, and that as we have need, Lord, that we would be able to better apply this in our lives. Lord, we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, so just a quick review of the 5 lessons that we've had, and then we're going to, as I said, we're going to get in just very, very practical tips on the process of fasting, how to fast, all right? So lesson 1, talked about the proper conditions for biblical fasting out of Matthew chapter 9, where we are in our text today. We look at it's a spiritual need, right? It's based on a spiritual need and based on a special relationship that we have with our Father. And then we turned to Matthew chapter 4 and looked at Christ's fast in the wilderness. 3 things we saw from that. Fasting facilitates the Spirit's work. It facilitates the Spirit's work in our lives. It forces a confrontation, not only with the enemy, with Satan, but it forces a confrontation within ourselves. And if you fasted, then you probably felt that. And fasting exposes the ultimate allegiance of the heart. And to say that a different way, in a way that we've been saying in this, it exposes what your sustainer is, right? What is sustaining us, and what is, and at some point we'll go through Christian Anatomy series, and I love the illustration we use there for the heart and what is in the driver's seat of your life. And the illustration is again, it's like a tea bag, kind of whatever's in your heart, whatever is your sustainer, whatever it is that you're relying on. And when it's there, and you put the hot water in, and all of a sudden, like if you drink black tea, the tea leaches out. It's not the hot water that exposes. Or it's not the hot water that produces the tea, right? It's the hot water that exposes what's in the tea bag, what's already there. Same with your fast. The fast exposes, right, what we're doing, using to sustain ourselves. And generally you have a good idea, but it kind of highlights that. Lesson 3, the fruit of biblical fasting, from John chapter 4, the woman at the well. The Father's will is supremely fulfilling, and that's what we saw with Christ. I mean, I love that, where the disciples come back and it's like, who brought him meat? Well, no, it's the Father's will, and the fulfillment through the Father's will is an appetite to be developed. You know, it's not that all of a sudden you get saved, and although it's 1 Corinthians 5:17 says that you're a new creature, right, if Christ be in you, and that doesn't mean that all of a sudden you have a supreme appetite for the Father's will, and that is what sustains you. It's something that must be developed, and that the Father's will can sustain a life of purpose, right? That it's oftentimes it's kind of like the Bible. You know what's easier than going to the Bible and trying to figure out something for your life, going to a book that somebody wrote about the Bible. I don't know why, but we're like, oh yeah, I'll read that. As opposed to like actually doing a Bible study. Something very similar where God's will itself is supremely fulfilling, but it's something to be developed. And then the efficacy of depending on God through biblical fasting, and went through the Bible just very, very quickly, looking at different aspects that people fasted for God's restoration, fasted for God's guidance, and fasted for personal spiritual growth, that we would grow as a spiritual discipline. And then last week we looked at fasting that God sees out of Isaiah 58, 3 through 12, and the specific example of a fast that God didn't see when the Jews were doing it, but then he gave them what he would like to see, right? Great, great text. And so fasting is meant to starve sin, not us. We need to be aware of rituals, and I think that's come up many, many, many times throughout this series. It's the motive of your heart, which ties into last Sunday's message. Motives matter. And for the purpose that we would become less fleshly, less carnal, less fulfilled by our flesh. And fasting is meant to make us better servants to others. We saw that through Isaiah, through self-denial, that when we get used to denying ourselves, right, then you can actually not just deny yourself food, but you can deny yourself other things as well. And that we would have service to others. And it's hard to serve others when you're too busy kind of fulfilling yourself. And so that self-denial goes in and feeds that service to others. So the hardest part about traditional fasting, traditional meaning from food, outside of the spiritual realm, is not the physical battle, but the mental one. See, our especially in America, our bodies can handle fasting. It's not like we're kind of on the razor's edge of the food supply, where we're just no. Some of us more than others have some room. Our bodies can handle fasting, of course, barring a medical limitation. But for most of us, they can. But our minds have to be convinced of that. Our minds have to be convinced that our bodies can handle fasting. If they're not, we'll spend all of our time consumed with the thought, what could happen? What could happen if I don't start eating again? What could happen? I need to start eating. And I don't know, even yesterday, I think my stomach was like, I wasn't fasting. Christelle's like, oh, are you hungry? Our body lets us know, but it's really our mind that is the issue. The best remedy to combat these mind battles is simply obtaining the proper knowledge on fasting and your body. And so first off, there's variations on traditional fasting. And this is a question I even received over the last couple weeks. So again, traditional fasting, meaning fasting from food, okay? 3 different kind of variations. One is a food fast. We would see that in Matthew chapter 4, verses 1 and 2. When Jesus was led into the wilderness by the Spirit, he participated in a food fast. Now, food fast would be, you can have water, but you're not going to eat food. Well, what kind of food? You're not going to eat any food, right? That would be a food fast. You're going to fast from food, but you're going to drink that water like there's no tomorrow, because that's what you're putting in your stomach. That'd be a food fast. Now, there's also a partial fast, meaning abstaining from certain foods. An example of this would be in Daniel 10:3, where he wanted to be on a pulse diet instead of taking and eating from the king's meat in his drink, and so be vegetables and water. That doesn't sound like a good diet. Almost rather be on a full fast. In verse 2, it says, in those days, in those days, I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant bread, neither came flesh nor wine in my mouth, neither did I anoint myself at all till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled. So he didn't eat any pleasant bread, but he did eat bread. Neither came flesh nor wine in my mouth, but other things came in my mouth, right? And then we see that continuing when he goes on his pulse diet. And then there's an absolute fast. which is going without food or water for no more than 3 days. And I'm going to give you the biblical example of this, but this is not something that I would suggest. Esther 4:16. 4:15 we'll start. Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. So do you remember the story, right? Esther is now the queen. Mordecai, her uncle. It's the Haman is going after Mordecai, and he's going to try and eradicate the Jews. And so Mordecai sends word to Esther. This is Esther sending word back to Mordecai. This answer, verse 16: Go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, and neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law, and if I perish, I perish. Now, you can only last 3-ish days without water. So again, that's not something to mess with, but that would be another type of fast. Absolute fast. Variations on a traditional fast. So, when you fast, and I'm going to take it from the aspect of a food fast, right, which would be the most traditional. You're going to have water, but you're not going to have food. How does your body respond to fasting? And this is actually described by Richard Foster in The Celebration of Discipline, pages 51 through 52. And these are only generalities, okay? The obligatory consult your personal physician, right? Especially if you are on special medication, right? You're pregnant. I mean, any type of, right? Don't do a pastor said, okay? Like you're in the hospital because you didn't eat. So before you go on any type of extended fast, right? Make sure you know what you're dealing with physically. But days 1 through 3, maybe you experience this. The body's natural detoxification process happens. What do you have? Well, you have hunger pains, okay? You get kind of a coating of the tongue where it kind of, you want to brush your teeth a lot. Bad breath that goes along with that. Headaches due to minor withdrawal symptoms, often from tea or coffee or things like that. And so days 1 through 3, not great. And usually, though, the hunger pains, they're okay. Now, days 4 through 5, commonly the most difficult period of the fast. Now, I'm gonna raise my hand. Haven't gone past days 1 through 3. Okay, so I've not ventured into the 4 through 5 category. Thus, I am relying on this gentleman. But I have heard from others that have had. So if you remember, Pastor Farinella Sr., I preached Growth Lasts for us on our first anniversary. He fasted for 40 days for his wife when she was dying of cancer, or before she was dying, but when she was diagnosed. He's the only person I personally know that's fasted for such an extended time. But so people do it. People do it. Days 4 through 5, commonly the most difficult period of the fast. Day 1 was kind of hard, but 4 through 5. So subsiding hunger pains. That sounds good, right? Strong sense of weakness. Your body's like, I need to eat. Occasional dizziness and increased need for rest. So you just feel more worn down. Okay, days 6 through 8, the body begins to reverse the negative effects it feels, and your strength and alertness will gradually increase. And so this whole kind of, and now you can go find a bunch of fasting material from kind of a health perspective, right? Because it is a natural detoxification process, and that's kind of what happens days 6 through 8. You're kind of coming up out of that detox, and in days 9 through 10, commonly the most physically enjoyable part of the fast. I'm such an American. I'm like, how do I get there faster, right? I'm like, how do I get to days 9 through 10 without going through 1 through 8? But so the bulk of the toxins have been eliminated from the body. Hunger pains almost completely are gone, oddly enough. Just a minor irritation at this point. You have a fully restored sense of health and well-being. You're no longer tired. Your concentration, they say, is sharpened beyond pre-fast levels. And so you feel alert. Fasting's mental battle is conquered. You feel like you could continue fasting indefinitely. That's like 9 through 10. That's good, right? That's just a lot of days to get there. Days 21 through 40, wherever, the physical limit to healthy fasting. So you hit a plateau where things feel good, right? And you're like, I could do this forever, until you can't. And then your reserve body fuel, your fat cells deplete. Hunger pains return at this point. And this is your body's signal to say, end the fast. Depending on who you are, will depend on when that point is, right? Some it may happen much quicker than others. And just, you're not being funny, but if you don't have a lot of reserve fuel, it's gonna come a lot quicker than other folks. All right, but the point here is, when your body starts to say, I'm hungry again, that's the point to stop. It's kind of like your body's gas light coming on and saying, all right, it's for those of you that don't drive, it means go to the gas station and put gas in, otherwise you'll be calling somebody. All right, starvation begins if warning signals are not heeded, and this is when the body stops drawing on a reserve fuel, which is fat, all right, and starts drawing on living tissue, which is not what you want. So it's easier if you know kind of what stage-ish you're in and what to expect to conquer that mental battle when you know what's coming. But also, because we can know that, we should, if we're going to have an extended fast, and I'm not talking about a day. Like if you fast for a day, again, barring any crazy medical considerations, you can do that, right? You don't need planning for that. But if you're going to have an extended fast, there are some special considerations. First, of course, consider your health limitations. Not every person should take on a full traditional fast due to health concerns, right? Hypoglycemic, hyperglycemic, pregnant, the list could go on and on. Probably not what you want to do. Consider optional fasts, like a partial fast. You abstain from certain foods or certain drinks. You could abstain from activities, hobbies, or anything else that is of high value to you. Remember, a sustainer, like chocolate or coffee. I'm being serious. For Johnny, it would be, I can make fun of him because he's not here. I'd make fun of him if he was here. For Johnny, it would be coffee. I remember when Lori put him on a remedy and he couldn't have coffee. He's just like, I've tried it for 3 days and it's not working. But for you, it might be coffee or tea. For others, Yulia, maybe it's ice cream, although the wedding kind of, put an end to most of that. But, whatever it is that you are using as a sustainer that would fit within your health constraints, okay? What was that? Phones. Yes, phones I think is fantastic. So, special fast considerations for health, right? Also, consider anticipated physical or mental demands. Okay, so you're saying, I've got a spiritual need, because we say that's when you fast, right? I've got a spiritual need, and I'm gonna fast for 3 days. Okay, right during the time I have a VP presentation. Probably not good, right? Right when I'm gonna go run an Ironman. Probably not good. So there are some scheduling, right, things that although they're obvious, you want to consider those. Consider anticipated physical or mental demands. It would not be wise to fast if it will hinder your responsibilities to your job during a crucial time. Like right now, it's probably not the time for Jose or Nabanita to fast. Hey, I'm going to do a multi-day fast. I'm going to get to the point where I'm really tired. I'm kind of dizzy. And I'm taking care of twins. Probably not a good time, okay? In most cases, it's best to plan your fast around your schedule. However, let us not forget, a fast should primarily be to react to your relationship with Christ, not a cold religious formality. But with that said, for a longer term fast, the schedule should be taken into consideration. Again, almost anybody can fast for 1 day. We should be able to do that. So, pre-fast preparations. Gradually purge your diet of caffeine. So if you're going to fast, you're gonna be feeling the effects of it anyways. Don't like give yourself the double whammy of now I want food and my body is craving caffeine at the same time. That's just, there's no need to do that. So gradually purge your diet of caffeine, of sugars, fats, fried foods, kind of all that junk. It will help at least 3 days prior to your fast. It will greatly reduce the negative effects of the detox process, the headaches, the hunger pains, etc., and will speed up the fasting stages mentioned above. It will help get you to the good stages faster. It's bad enough to be hungry and to have your body telling you it needs food, but if you're used to having 2 to 4 cups of coffee a day, right, that's not going to help. And then post-fast acclimations. Don't, I remember hearing a story of some guy in Bible college and, went on some 20-day fast or something like that, and then ate this like huge meal. Because I'm sure by that time, like your mind is just like, let's go down to the IHOP and I want the large stack of pancakes. Probably not a good idea. Okay, probably not a good idea. So don't gorge yourself. Your mind may have convinced you that you won't survive without a banquet, but you really won't need that much food. Your stomach, along with your realistic appetite, will have drastically shrunk. So here's a tip. Eat an apple 10 to 15 minutes before you want to eat your meal. You'll probably just end up being full with the apple. That's probably what will happen. But when you do start eating again, you want to eat healthy, nutrition-rich, low-fat foods for your first few meals. So steamed vegetables, non-battered fish. Don't fry your fish, just kind of steam it or whatever. Water, etc. Light food. So after you come off your fast, your body's going to think it's starving because you're starving it. All right? So if you go through and eat a bunch of high-fat foods, immediately it's going to start storing, right? Storing that fuel again because it thinks that it's not going to get some. So you need to kind of get your body to know, just like when you have water, right? That there's a constant stream of water, there's a constant stream of food. It'll start regulating, and then you can kind of gradually get back into your normal diet. You don't want it to convert to body fat and kind of get into the survival mode. And so make sure that you have a plan when you're coming out of your fast. Now, those are all physical preparations. Just a couple spiritual preparations and we'll be done. Replace your sustainer, right? That's the whole point of fasting. Is remember, your hope is to discover in part that the will of God is supremely fulfilling. I mean, that's the goal. So be sure to replace your sustainer with time with Him and discover and discovering and doing His will for your life. It would be such a travesty if it turned out just to be, a diet, right? Where you sacrificed your appetite and you didn't do anything different. You didn't spend any time with God. You didn't focus on Him at all spiritually, and you shed a couple pounds. Like that'd be a travesty. We want to replace our sustainer with God and His will. Also, potentially keep a journal. Make every moment of your fast count. Become the spiritual lab rat and record your spiritual reactions to your physical changes. I remember Pastor Matt when he was in college, Bible college, and he had an opportunity to, intern in Haiti. He has some very interesting stories of Haiti. And the missionary he was with, they had a walled kind of house compound with razor wire and glass and everything on the top. And it was so bad in Haiti, I can't even really imagine this, where people were trying to get over the wall to get to them in their house. And so the missionary, he's got his gun and he's shooting people like, that are trying to come up on the wall. I don't think he actually shot them. And I mean, he's speaking to them in Haitian, and it's just they're driving down the street, and they see somebody, and so here's what it was. They're like bad traffic. The bus drivers were picketing, what's the
Strike.
strike? Thank you. They were on strike. They're burning tires in the street. Finally, they come back and like it's better. Like, hey, what happened to the strike? Oh yeah, we shot them. They went back to work. I mean, it was a terrible situation. So he decided at this point he was going to fast, and he had like all these huge ideas about what it was going to be so spiritual. And he wrote a journal, and he said he felt pathetic, but years later he looks back on that, and even though he had this very romantic notion of what the fast was going to do for him and everything else, he looked back and he said, man, I can see how God was growing me through that time. And take a journal. Keep a prayer journal. I mean, regardless, it's a good thing to see how God's answered your prayers and how you've grown. Most importantly, be in prayer. Be in prayer. So you're going to have at least your meal times free, right? Where you're not eating. Be in prayer, both for yourself and for your spiritual growth, but for others. For others, again, your goal is to be able to be fulfilled by God's will, and His will is about seeking and helping others, right? And then pick a target. Make your fast purposeful. Fasting for something will help prevent you from fasting for the sake of fasting, right? It's not just I'm going to fast. Why? I don't know, to see what it's like. No, you fast for a purpose. And we saw that in the first lesson. Fast for a purpose. Like, I need to get closer to God because of blank. Therefore, I will fast. But you should be able to answer that. I need, right, to be able to be closer to God, more sustained by God, whatever it is, right? Because. What's the reason? Because I feel like I'm drifting from God. Could be. Because I need His direction. Could be. Right? All the different things. We gave the biblical examples earlier from like lesson 4 or 3, whichever one that was. But have a target, and that will help you actually make better use of your fast. So thank you to those who fasted for our meeting with the city. Let's make this a regular part of our relationship with God. Not okay, in Bellevue Baptist Church we fast on Thursdays, or we fast the second Thursday of the month. But it's part of the tool set that God gives us to be able to ensure that we are in fact delighted, right, with His will, that we are sustained with His will. We need to ensure that we are sustained by doing God's will, and that that our desire is for Him. I mean, we have to make sure that that's where we're at. And ultimately, again, we don't fast because we want to strong arm God into giving us something, right? It's not like we fast because God, it's like the kid that holds their breath. You know what I mean? I want a puppy, right? That's not what we're doing. That's not what we're doing. What we're doing is that so whatever God has for us, right, we're going to be fulfilled by that. And we want to show God that we are clearly reliant on Him. And so I'm sure that in the life of this church, there will be times where we call for a corporate fast. And given where we're at with this building, it might be, again, pretty quick. I don't know. Maybe not. But it will be based on need, so that we can make sure that as closely as possible we're following the guidelines and the dictates of Scripture. So that is, look at that, fast tonight. That is the series on fasting, which I want to thank Brother Jeff Allard, because he was the one who brought that up. I asked at the first men's prayer breakfast if there was anything kind of people had questions about or wanted to teach on, and he mentioned that, and I prayed about it, and I thought, you know what, that's good. So maybe we can blame him. No, but it is good. So next up, from a Wednesday night perspective, and I don't think I'm going to make it very long, but I'm going to teach on worship. and just kind of how we're going to incorporate more meaningful worship into our regular Sunday service. So a little bit of a teaser, and with that, we are dismissed. Lucas, did your mom